Good morning. I'd like to call the regular county council meeting February 27th. Call to order. With the land acknowledgement, we acknowledge Athabasca County is located on First Nations Treaty 6 and Treaty 8 traditional territory. We respect and honor all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples' connection to these lands, their history, language, and culture. So thank you for joining us. I guess we'll move on to 2.1, approval of the agenda. So as per 9.8 of the procedural bylaw, council is to select items to debate. One starting off with 2.1, 3.1, 5.1, 5.2, 7.1, 7.2, 9.2, and 13.1. Is there any additions or deletions or any other items? Councillor Cromwell?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to add 8.2, 8.3, 8.4.
Okay.
And 8.7.
8.7. Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Anybody else want to discuss anything? Councillor Hall?
I think we should also add 8.6, just in case anything arises from the item, and would propose that we add 6.1, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.6. In addition to 10.1, we should acknowledge receipt of a letter from the town.
Can you repeat that, please?
All of it? Or we let the chair repeat it?
6.1 onward.
6.1, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.6. And 10.1 letter from the town of Athabasca.
If I may, Chair, are we able to split the question on 10.1, please?
What's that? Split the question on 10.1?
Yes, please.
Okay. Use your mic if.
Just splitting it into what, so I can write it down? Cause it'll be two.
To add on. Split the question to add on letter from town of Athabasca 10.1. So that split the question from just vote on that if we want to, if council wants to add that on or not.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone okay with splitting the question? Councillor Hall?
I think we should also add 9.1C to see.
9.1C. And
At that point, I'll throw 9.1A in there too.
9.1A. Okay, so. Anybody else? Seeing none, do you want me to go over the okay, so we're looking at 2.1, 3.1, 5.1, 5.2, 6.1, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, 7.1, 7.2, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.6, 8.7, 9.1A, 9.1C, 9.2, 13.1, and then we're gonna have a motion, split motion on 10.1. So I guess we'll go with the motion to split the, to discuss 10.1. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed?
Opposed?
4. Motion carried. We will be discussing 10.1 on, motion was in favor, 5-4 vote. So we'll move on. All in favor of approval of the agenda? Counselor Gerlach? All opposed? 1. So 8-1. Motion carried to approve the agenda. Motion to recess the county council meeting. Counselor Cromwell has made a motion to recess the county council meeting for the public hearing. All in favor? Motion
Aye.
carried. Okay, so here we go. Good morning. I declare the public hearing open. I am Rob Mins, the Deputy Reeve for Athabasca County, and I will be chair of the hearing. On behalf of the council, I would like to welcome you here today. All of council is present, and I would like to take this moment for introductions, beginning with my right, Councillor.
Good morning. My name is Natasha Capitania, Counselor for Division 2, Minnook, New Pine Creek, and Collington.
Good morning, Joe Gerlach, Division 1, Rochester Perryville area.
Good morning, Gary Cromwell, Far North, Division 6.
Morning, Camille Walk, Division 9.
Kelly Chomsik, Division 7.
Brian Hall, I live in Division 4.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in Division 3.
Reeve Holland.
Morning, Reeve Holland, Division 5, which is east of Athabasca, Amber Valley, Paxton, and Pine Creek area. Paxton area, sorry.
Good morning, Rob Mintz, Division 8, Southeast Lake Island Lake area. And I'd like to introduce the secretary of the public hearing is Bob Beck, who is the CAO for Athabasca County. Recording secretary, Ms. Leah Blair. Communication manager, Jordan Schinkelberg. Director of Community and Protective Services, Krista Wilkinson. Director of Corporate Services, Shadi Abley. And Land Management Specialist, Diane Cloutier. You got that right, eh? Perfect. Any persons who have joined the meeting in person or via Zoom and are wishing to be heard should please give your full name now. Hearing none. The public hearing for bylaw 003-2025 is now open. And I'll let our secretary take it on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of this public hearing is for Athabasca Council of the County to hear testimony from interested parties. It is not meant to be a debate between presenters, and all comments must be directed to council through the chairperson. Only one person may speak at a time, and each person wishing to provide input to council will have the opportunity to do so. The ground rules of the hearing and the order of speaking will be Land Management Specialist Diane Cloutier will speak first to outline the background and provide an explanation of the bylaw. Members of the public who are wishing to be heard will be given the opportunity to speak. Ms. Cloutier will be given the opportunity to present closing remarks or address any of the issues presented. Councillors will be given the opportunity to ask questions. Council will then end the public hearing and will later consider the information received at the public hearing. Council will only consider matters raised at the hearing. Only councillors may ask questions of speakers during the hearing. If any persons want to ask questions of a speaker, they must ask the chair to ask the question on their behalf during their presentation, and the chair will only ask a question if the chair wishes to have an answer in order to undertake its consideration.
Before hearing from the public, I would like to ask Director Wilkinson to provide background and explanation of the proposed bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. I'll provide that for you today. The purpose of bylaw 003-2025 is to close a portion of undeveloped road allowance that is no longer required for use by the traveling public, sorry. The undeveloped road allowance is located between Southeast 34, 65, 22 west of the Fourth and lots 1 and 2 of Block 1, Plan 1123174, which is approximately 4 kilometers south of the town of Athabasca. Adjacent landowners within 100 meters of the road allowance were mailed notification letters for the public hearing on February 3rd, 2025. Advertisement was placed in the local newspaper for February 11th and February 18th edition, and also placed on the county's website, which provided information regarding the public hearing for bylaw 003-2025. The proposed road closure will not affect access to neighboring properties as access is achieved from Range Road 222.
Okay. I will now call upon the persons wishing to speak. Please state your name for the record before you begin. Hearing none, does council have any questions or points of clarification? I have one. Regarding the road plan that goes through on the east side, the new road plan through there. Is it a 20-meter, 20.12 meter right of way, or is it 100-foot right of way that runs through there?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. The existing right-of-way is 20 meters, but we do have an easement for road widening on the west portion adjacent to lots 1 and 2, and that was taken at the time of subdivision. So we do have that placeholder on the west side to achieve that 30-meter or half of the 30-meter, I should say, sorry, because the other half would be on the east side.
On the east side?
Yeah.
I
It's a
guess
different landowner, yeah.
It's a different landowner on the east side? Nice. Okay. No, that's perfect. That was my main question, was to make sure we at least grabbed 17 feet. So thank you very much. Any other okay. Is there anyone else who have spoken? Is there anyone else who has not spoken and wishes to speak? Does council have any questions or points of clarification? Okay. Nothing there. So at this time, does council have any additional questions of any speaker or of staff? Does anyone feel that they have not been fairly heard? Okay. There being no further testimony, I will close the public hearing. I further advise council cannot receive any further information on this matter. Thank you for attending the public hearing. I declare the hearing closed at, let's see what time it is, 9:43. Thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. We will now resume our regular county council meeting. The next item on the agenda will be, well, I guess the next item is delegations. That's not till 10:30. So we'll move on to 6.1. Trident Pumps, page 60 of your agenda. So do I have a recommended motion?
Recommended motion.
Councillor Cromwell has made the recommended motion. Is there any questions?
I would move an amendment to add the words and to provide a report to council in September of 2025 regarding the outcome of the summer training and investigation into the system. So to close the loop on fall.
So to add,
And and to provide a report to council in September 2025 regarding the outcome of the summer training and investigation into the system.
Okay. Okay, so we got that amended motion on there. Like, any other discussion regarding this? None? Okay, so we do have a motion out there right now, moved by Councillor Anderson to direct administration to bring back a recommendation related to the proposals from Trident Pump. That is CC 24,588. So they are bringing back okay, so okay, I guess we'll discuss on the amendment to the motion. All in favor? Oh, okay.
I just want to say, I think it's a good amendment because it will be quite busy with administration, you know, it being an election time, and I would really like to know how they how I really want to know what happens before the election happens, just in case. I think it's good for us to hear that information. I'm very interested.
Okay. Yep. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, so we'll call it to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none. The amended motion has passed, so can we read out the recommended motion now? So with the whatever that motion is. Here, please.
Moved by Counselor Cromwell. To receive the report as information and to provide a report to council in September of 2025 regarding the outcome of training and investigation of the system.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you. So moving on to 6.3, page 68. Recommend motion to rescind resolution CC 2531. Anybody want to move that motion? Councillor Kapitanic has moved that motion. Recommend motion. Any discussion?
As a point of order, I think you need a motion for reconsideration first.
A motion for reconsideration?
We're revisiting a motion that we've passed less than a month ago.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay,
would move that motion.
okay. Councillor Hall has moved the motion to reconsider resolution CC 2531. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, Councillor Kapitanic has moved the motion to reconsider resolution CC 2531. Any discussion?
Sorry, I'll move it to rescind.
Yeah, rescind. Yeah. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. 9-0. Okay, so. What was there? Moving on to 6.4. Page 69, resolution CC 23-653. I guess we're gonna need to have a motion to reconsider this motion? No?
Your timing is fine.
Okay. Okay, so. Counselor Chomsik. Moves to rescind resolution. Motion CC 23-653 and forward the trails and trails strategy to the future level of service discussion. Any discussion? Counselor Hall.
I don't understand why we can't, to me, this is an important issue that warrants its own focused discussion at committee of the whole at some point in the future. And I don't understand the motivation to delete it and kick it to the other meeting that'll be filled with lots of other topics. I think, we're sort of rethrashing old straw again, and it's fine to leave it as it is and work it into the committee of the whole agenda when time suits and give it the focus it deserves. Trails are important, and they're could be an important part of our future economic development, and I think they warrant considered thought that's focused on that specific topic alone. So I don't support rescinding the resolution. I think we can leave it.
Okay.
Okay,
Reeve Holland.
thank you. I understand exactly what Councillor Hall is referring to. However, this motion has been sitting on the table since 2023. There is a memorandum of understanding as well as a master plan that is being reviewed right now with the Athabasca Land Trail Steering Committee. Moving it to the level of service discussion gives us that opportunity to review what is already in place. And if we should require further discussion or further strategy conversation, that definitely can take place. But it is just an old resolution that's been sitting there for some time. And I do believe we can be moving forward at the level of service discussion.
Okay. Counselor Capitania.
I would say that, 4 months isn't a terribly long amount of time for it to have been sitting, waiting to be talked about, but it is, I believe, the responsibility of the chair of the committee of the whole to get it on the agenda. So I would have, maybe after 6 months poked a little bit, but I think it was still reasonable that it would be coming to committee of the whole. I don't feel that it has been forgotten.
Okay, thank you. Any other Counselor Cromwell?
Thank you. The last motion regarding this was made in 2023. And we have talked about many different things, and we've talked and kicked many things back to a level of service discussion. I think that is actually appropriate for this. And I support the motion to bring it back to level of service.
Okay. Any other discussion? Counselor Chomsik?
I will agree with that because it is a service, and the level of service conversation, I think, is exactly where it needs to go.
Okay. Anybody else want to discuss before we call the question? Seeing none, so Counselor Chomsik has made the motion to rescind resolution CC 23-653 and forward the trails and trail strategy to a future level of service discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Did you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 opposed? Did you vote twice or did I? Oh, okay, okay. Yeah. No, okay, I thought I seen it. I don't know. So what is that? 5 and 4. Motion carried, 5 and 4. Okay. So let's move on to 6.5. Which is, so it looks like we need to do no? Okay. Okay, to rescind resolution CC 24-141. Who wants to move that? Counselor? Oh, okay. Reeve Holland has moved to rescind resolution CC 24-141. Any discussion? Okay, seeing nobody wants to discuss it. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried, 9-0.
Now, Mr. Chair, we've rescinded a motion to table an item. So that puts that item back on the table, and I would then like to move a motion that was the recommended motion that originally sat with this. That council to match the funding for the town of Athabasca and the Village of Boyle helipad site assessments to a maximum contribution from the town, or sorry, from the county of $6,242.25 for each assessment.
Point of information, if I may, please.
Go ahead.
We rescinded motion C4, pardon me, CC 24141. And was that the motion to table this item until after presentation?
And we put it back on.
I'm sorry?
I guess, no, we'll get into the discussion. Is it table or postpone?
Well, I guess I'm a bit confused, so just bring me up to speed here. If we rescinded motion CC 24141, was that rescinded?
Yeah.
Okay, so that passed. And that resolution, if I'm not mistaken, was to table this item until after a presentation from the community group and STARS. So if we've rescinded that, how is it tabled? It's no longer tabled, it's rescinded.
Oh, it's on the table now.
Am I confused?
Yes.
The conversation, because there are not a few mics on, is that it puts the original recommendation back on the table.
I guess I don't know how, if it's been rescinded.
Well, moved by Councillor Holland to table this item until after the presentation from the community groups and STARS.
Right, and that was just rescinded, correct?
Right.
Right, so how is it still a tabled motion then?
It's not. It's
Okay.
not. It's not a tabled motion.
So is there a new motion on the floor now?
Now we got a new motion on the floor. So,
Okay,
so the new motion on the floor is to,
That council agree to match funding for the town of Athabasca and the Village of Boyle helipad site assessments to the maximum contribution from the county of $6,242.25 for each assessment.
to let? Oh, to match. I thought you said to let, to match the county's contribution. So, okay, so if we wanted to, I guess we want to discuss that motion. Councillor Caftania.
I think it's an exceptional step forward for our municipalities to work together to bring better healthcare services. To do an assessment is the first step. And everything costs a little tiny bit of money, and it will tell us if these things are viable. So I support that wholeheartedly with our municipal partners.
Thank you. Anybody else? Councillor Wallach.
Yeah, I totally would support this. Just as recently as this weekend, there was an incident in the county and somebody had to get lifted out at the airport. So minutes save lives, and I think it's crucial for our residents to have that access to healthcare.
Reeve Holland.
and exactly what Councillor Wallach mentioned, that someone had to be lifted from the airport. I guess my concern here is we heard loud and clear from our MLA, Glenn Van Dyke, and when he was here, that ambulance service is a concern for sure in our community, and that seems to be a focus on having that corrected. As he did mention, we have an airport 3 minutes away, a regional airport, and by increasing and improving our ambulance service, that would save a lot of concern with regards to those immediate needs for airlifting out. So I'm struggling with regards to, are we going to receive government support for this when there are other avenues that we need to work on as well. I understand it's, $12,000, $12,500 ask. However, if we don't have the support of the province at this time, it becomes a larger figure in a very short amount of time. So at this point, until we get more information from health services with regards to ambulance service improvement, I'm hesitant with providing those excess funds. I'm struggling with that one, but just wanted to make sure that we all understood where the government was sitting at in our last visit.
Okay. Okay, on that note. Anybody else want to discuss? Councillor Anderson,
I'd like to request a recorded vote on this item.
recorded vote on this, okay. Councillor Anderson has requested a recorded vote. So. Councillor Wallach,
We're not committing to building the helipads. We're committing to looking into building helipads. So I think there's a difference. There's a ton of community support for this, and I think it'll cost a lot of money, yes, but the community will back it. And the ambulance services, we haven't seen an improvement in the last year. And do we wait another year, 5 years, or can we take it into our own hands and do something for our residents?
Councillor Cromwell.
Thank you. Actually, those are great words from Councillor Wallach, and maybe based on the words coming from that side of the table, we should look at getting a county helipad out by Rochester and out by Wandering River for our residents for that need, so they actually have a place to land. Since we're talking about caring for our residents, I think that might be a bigger discussion. But if we're looking at putting one, helping the town and the village put one up, we should look at putting them up for our residents as well.
Okay, any other discussion that anybody wants to do? I think honestly, it's not a big ask or anything like that, but I do believe that the town and the village can actually support their own initiative to figure out if they have what the funds it's going to take to build this, and then possibly come back and ask Athabasca County for any in-kind work or any contribution that we could possibly give them. But I think should be up to the municipality of where they want these helipads to be put in place to come up with the amount and if they can do it or not. That's the biggest thing. It's just a small ask, but I think that's my point of view. Reeve Holland.
Thank you. Being that this is such a new item on our table, the other questions that may pop up, such as is there grant funding for this particular assessment? Has that been utilized from the different municipalities? Have they looked at those situations? And I think that for me, I would rather postpone this item until we have that information with regards to any type of grant funding that can be utilized for this. And I agree, it is two other municipalities' initiatives. Does it benefit the county if it does go through? I wholeheartedly agree that it would. However, we do have to be also fiscally responsible as well to make sure that all avenues have been looked at for obtaining that funding for those assessments. So if we might be able to postpone this until further information, I think that would be a prudent thing to do. Can I go again?
Okay, well, Councillor Capitani.
It's nice to get to have extra thoughts. Thank you, Chair. I was spinning this, and I don't want to speak about healthcare and lives in numbers. I mean, a dollar value to a life is not something that anybody can put on. And that sounds really sympathetic, but there is a dollar value you can put on to development of jobs and business in the county. And companies that may want to move here and bring staff or bring workers are going to look at the levels of service, and emergency services are way up there. So especially if they're jobs that are in any kind of dangerous field. I mean, it could be logging, it could be, It could be anything, but what I really think is to stop, this is the one time I really don't want to look at this as like town, village, county. This is community and when companies look at those things, they look at the big picture. They don't look at, does Athabasca have this, but not Athabasca County? If Athabasca town doesn't have it, then Athabasca County could suffer. And this is just, we're pitching in to do a study to see if it's viable. I mean, it's almost like saying like, we're spending a lot of time on just seeing if we're even going to do something. But I really think we need to see if we're going to do something. Again, echoing Councillor Wallach, we're not committing, but we gotta be on part of the team to see if we can get this done because we all need to benefit.
Okay, we're only gonna go around twice on this. Anybody else? Anybody else wanna, that who hasn't talked? Wants to talk again? Myself, yeah, be part of the team and everything, but I do believe that the municipalities can actually fund their ideas and then come back with an ask once they get it affirmed about how much this is going to cost. And that I think they can fund their own initiatives and then come back with an ask to Athabasca County when that point in time comes due. But that's my thoughts. Councillor Hall, you wanted the last word?
So I think that it is important that we move ahead with the initiative. For clarity, this is not an initiative from the other municipalities. This is a community-driven initiative that the other municipalities are working with the community to advance. And for the county to be part of it, for me, I think is important because it demonstrates a will to work together. And why wouldn't we want to be part of investigating whether a helipad is feasible for our residents who are served by the regional hospital? So the helipad, we can talk about ground ambulances all you want, but they are a serious disadvantage in the decision-making matrix that relates to saving lives and getting people who live in the county and the town to the critical care that they need in the city. We all know that critical care does not exist in our hospital. It's a stabilize and ship kind of place, and that's fine. I think as rural residents, we expect and understand that we're not having all the specialists. Time is money in healthcare. Time is lives in healthcare. And if you can take out that leg of the ground transfer between here in Edmonton, it shortens the decision matrix and means more flights. The statistics would show that as soon as that exists at the hospital, there will be more flights out of here versus ambulance transfers. So we're not approving the project. All we're doing is looking at an assessment to get better information so that the region can make better decisions about our own well-being in the future. There is, as has been said, plenty of community and regional support. We're also not building the business model for this right now. All we're looking to do is provide some support to get better information. And so I think that it's an illegitimate framing of the question to say we're helping the town and village. This is about regional medevac, and the last time from our regional hospital, the last time I checked, there are 0 hospitals in Athabasca County. So the hospital is physically located in town, but you know what? So is the county office. I just don't know why would we get in the way of something like this? This is a project you want to look back on and say, I was part of digging into it and moving it forward, or getting enough information to know that it didn't make sense. But we can't put the brakes on before it even begins and refuse to be part of it. This would be one you want to, I think, be on the right side of it when history books are written. So that's it.
Okay, thank you for that. I did not write that motion down. So I wonder if we could have that motion read back. And then we'll vote on it, please.
Moved by Counselor Hall that council agree to match the funding with the town of Athabasca and the village of Boyle Helly site assessments to a maximum contribution from the county of $6,242.25 for each assessment.
Okay, call. Counselor Gerlach.
I realize Councillor Hall posed the discussion. I just wanted to ask a question. Is that possible? Just to ask a question, not pass a
Well,
comment?
we had the last word and
Okay.
yeah, we had the last word, so. Calling the question here, all in favor? All recorded vote, so. Counselor Anderson, Counselor Hall, Jamzik, Wallach, Kaptaniuk, Gerlach. And against? Counselor Mintz, Counselor Cromwell, and Reeve
Nay.
Hall. Motion carried. Moving on to 6.6, page 73. Do I have anybody giving the recommended motion?
I'll give the recommended motion.
Reeve Holland has recommended motion that the county send out communication to residents along the route regarding proposed snowmobile trail and advise them of a public open house. Councillor Hall.
I propose an amendment to delete the words along the route. Snowmobile trails affect more people than just those who are along the route. This lacks the clarity of immediately touching the route, within half a mile, within a mile, within 20 miles. And if you restrict it only to the properties that are touching, what you will have is a public hearing where people come talk about their fear instead of about their experience. We should be inviting the community at large. If there is going to be a consultation, it should be open to a wide variety of people. So folks who have trails past their house can also know about it and attend and talk about their actual experience with this, So that's the amendment I'd propose. And just because I have the floor, I'd say, I think this is a duplication of a decision we've already made. We already decided to postpone the public hearing until after a short trial period, so that those it impacts can again talk about their experience instead of their fears. I think that's the only way you have a meaningful discussion. And while I don't support this in general, I think it's important that we don't restrict it to a handful of people whose houses this is going to drive past, because we're making decisions that are regional.
Okay. Reeve Holland.
Thank you. I think there's some confusion there. The open house is going to be held by the Snowmobile Club. They will advertise that for all public to attend. Our responsibility is to our residents along the route to make sure that they are informed of that. Everybody will be attending that open house that has access to the advertising that the Snowmobile Club will be putting through. To say that people will discuss their fears, that's a judgment that we cannot make. And should not make. That is not up to us to determine what other people's opinions are, or to even put it out there that that's what is going to be discussed. There are people, of course, that are for this trail, and there's people that are against. Our responsibility is to the residents that butt up against that trail and make sure that they are aware of it happening. As we had heard last meeting, there were residents along the trail during this last conversation that didn't even know it was happening. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm quite sure that the open house advertising by the Snowmobile Club will be amazing. They will get it out to all of the public. But for us as a council and as a county, we have a responsibility to those residents along the trail that it directly impacts. So I'm against the amendment to remove along the route, being that it is not our responsibility to completely advertise the open house. It is our responsibility to make sure that the residents are aware along the route.
Okay. Councillor Cromwell.
Thank you. I echo many of those words. We're talking about making sure that people know what is actually going on and people understand what impact that will have on their property. And I'd like to remind the table that when we were talking about putting the sidewalk into Wandering River that other communities got, we limited that information to just the people along the route, when a sidewalk would impact many children, seniors, and family members across Wandering River. But now we're trying to go the other direction. So I think we need to remember what motions are made by certain people at the table before and how we have to make sure that we continue to do things uniform and fairly for everybody around the county. I get it, an open house will have the ability to bring in from everywhere, but it is our responsibility to go, excuse me, Mr. Bob, Mr. Joe, Mr. Fred, this is happening in front of your front door. We need you to be aware. And that is responsible, that is proper governance, that is why we are here.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Capitanic.
I would like to make it the second amendment.
Oh, my good Lord.
I know, but no, hear me out. So I would like to actually, as Councillor Hall has said, to send out communications to residents, I would like to, instead of say along the route, say within 1 mile of the route. And now hear me out. It's not hard to look at a map and see what addresses, what people live along that route. The reason I see it is a little different than what my colleague has talked about the sidewalk is obviously snowmobiles make sound. And so I would be interested to know if anybody within that space would have any issue with the sound, because that's what I feel like we're gonna hear if someone doesn't know that the open house is happening. Some people don't get the paper, some people don't use social media. Let's be realistic. We know that we're always gonna have ratepayers that are just kind of caught off guard and or come to us say, I didn't know. And so a letter, people pick up their mail. Maybe they only do it once a month, but then the county can say they gave notice to people that are within earshot. And I'm assuming that's maybe a mile is aggressive. Who has great hearing? I don't know, but the idea that I'm following both this open house, the motion, what Councillor Hall has brought up, and I'm formulating it to say, I get what he's getting at, but also keeping it a little bit more specifics and, just right on the road. So the farmer, half mile back says, well, I didn't know what's happening and I can hear them. So I just think if we're going to send a letter, we send a letter. It's not going to be that many. I mean, it isn't a highly populated route. That's my second amendment, within a mile.
So we got 2 amendments on the floor with the recommended motion and.
Just a point of information.
Oh, okay.
When we say that that's not a highly populated road, I beg to differ, that we would need to get those numbers sorted out.
Okay, okay, Councillor Chalmers.
I have a third, I'm just joking. But just a point to put in there, something, perhaps we can, when the snowmobile group also makes that open house, make sure that we do our due diligence, just making sure we're doing that advertising as well by sharing that, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wallach.
Yes, I'm a bit confused. Are we gonna start publicly and going out to every resident whenever there's an open house somewheres? I'm just wondering why we're wasting county resources on this. I understand that it's in our county but at this point, there's no ask from the snowmobile club to come do something. If we were looking for public feedback, why not wait till there's an ask to the county and then go from there and hold our own open house? Like, I'm just confused on why we're promoting another club's open house with our resources.
If I may,
Oh, no. I'm just going to chime in here for a second. This is what I hope that would not happen with this whole discussion. Here we go around again from the committee of the whole, and we're beating this thing to death, which we should have done at the committee of the whole, and I thought we had. And my thoughts on a mile, if we're going to go a mile out, we may as well go to everybody. And that's why I was saying, take this initiative. The snowmobile club should take this initiative and get their own open house going, we can advertise it. And hopefully everybody would pick up on it that really needs to pick up on. Because if we're gonna go a mile out, we may as well go to everybody. It's to me, it's kind of crazy. So this is what I really hope, that we wouldn't come out of the committee of the whole and do this, but Counselor Reeve Holland.
Thank you. With regards to, are we going to do this for every open house? If it directly impacts a resident and their quality of life, you bet we should be. That is our responsibility. County Resources is mail outs. We did so with the initiative for the small business tax incentive. And because we did that, it was extremely successful to get that communication out. Our downfall that we have been suffering is why we have a communication strategy to come forward. We need to communicate better to our residents. It is only fair to them to understand what is happening in their neighborhood. So yeah, you bet it is our responsibility. And I agree, we did hash this out quite a bit during Committee of the Whole. However, there seems to be concern as to why we would communicate to residents. It is our responsibility to do so. So I'm a bit confused as why that would be a concern for others.
Give me a shot, are you? It appears to me that when someone applies for subdivision, there's notification sent out to people within a mile or whatever. I don't know what the radius is, where they're notified of a subdivision is going to happen. In most cases, there are no problems with it. But in this particular instance, I think it would be very disruptive, could be very disruptive, and it would at the very least be responsible to give notification to the people that are within a mile. It's a letter. Each person doesn't get an individual letter. You maybe take 40 letters or whatever it is and address them and send them out. It's not that big a deal. And I think it's a responsible thing to do because I'll tell you, if this thing was going past my place, I would be some upset on many grounds, safety, inconvenience, whatever. I'm fortunate enough to have a real gravel haul past my place all the time, which I have to live with and can do it, but that's necessary. This is not necessary. And I just think we should be responsible.
Okay. Do you want to go again? No? Oh, okay. Anybody, before I give it back to Counselor Hall? Do you want another?
On the amendment, I don't need to speak a second.
Okay. So anybody else want to, any discussion on, I guess, discussion on the second amendment?
Right. The last word, the second amendment was to give a focused requirement to administration, not a random like residence. So it was just ideally up to a mile of the route, we can say. If there's a house, send them a letter. That's what I'm saying.
This is a huge undertaking for administration to go through and pinpoint everybody within a mile of this route. Oh, I know you could do it, but all of a sudden now we got administration. They're gonna be drafting letters to an amazing amount of people, and a subdivision, yes, because you're within a mile all the way around. This goes from one side of the county to the other side of the county, and how many townships it goes across. So no, not this time. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification. My colleague mentioned all the houses in that area. But would this not be sent, is this being sent to residences, like places where there's homes, or all property owners? Just trying to gauge what council's intention with this is. 'Cause I had originally thought of it as property owners, and now hearing that it's residences instead of residents. I just wanted to clarify that.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, I would clarify my amendment to mean residences, places where a person lives and could hear a snowmobile. So open farmland, no. Cows don't get to complain.
Okay, okay, well, we wanna wrap this up here because we got a delegation in about 5-6 minutes. So so I'm gonna call a question on the First Amendment. Amendment is to send a letter out within 1 mile of the route to residences. All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, 5. 6. Oh my God. 6? Yeah. Did you vote? No? Okay. Opposed? 2. So 7 and 2 on the First Amendment. So that First Amendment passed. Second Amendment,
Now, for clarity, Chair, that amendment, I think amends my amendment, which now I think you want to pass,
okay.
if you want to carry on.
Okay, so the recommended motion now will read that the county send out communications to residents within 1 mile of the route.
And
Uh,
if it's simplified and if it was unanimous consent from the floor, I would withdraw the amendment. So the question as chair would be, is there anyone opposed to
Okay.
to withdrawing that amendment? If I may?
Anybody opposed to withdraw the First Amendment? No, I don't see any. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I'll go through it again. That the county send out communications to residents along the route within 1 mile regarding the proposed snowmobile trail, advertising them of a public open house. All in favor?
Aye.
Just, okay, all in favor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? 5 and 4. Right? Did you vote? Okay, let's go back here. Let's all in favor of the, what? Oh my good God. That the county send out communications to residents within 1 mile of the route regarding the proposed snowmobile trail and advise them of the public open house. Advice of the. Okay. When you vote on this, please keep your hands up so we can count this decently. What? All in favor?
Aye.
1, 2, 3, 4. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. Joe, did you vote? Oh, you got to vote one way or the other. Which way? Opposed? Okay. Yeah, or 3 and 6, I think. 3 and 6. So 3, 4, 6 opposed. Motion defeated. Let's take a 4-minute break, 5-minute break. Let the delegation come in.
I get it. No,
Oh, okay, we'll reconvene the meeting here and welcome our first delegation of today, Alice B. Donahue Library and Archives Annual Update. And what we'll do before we get started, when I ask you to introduce yourself and everything, yeah, please use the mics.
Okay,
But I'll introduce, get council to introduce themselves and then we'll take off from there.
okay.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Gary Cromwell, Far North Division 6, up to including Wandering River area.
Good morning, Joe Gerlach, Rochester Perryville area.
Good morning, Natasha Kaptanik for Division 2, Collington, Minnock and New Pine Creek.
Good morning, Rob Mintz, Division 8, Baptiste Lake, Holland Lake area.
Morning, Camille Wallach, Division 9, north of the river.
Kelly Chamsick, Division 7, Grassland area.
Brian Hall, I live in Division 4, and I just want to say, Colleen, thank you for the years of service you've had.
You're
here.
quite welcome.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in Division 3, which is the Boyle Cadlin area.
And we had another counselor or Reeve Holland had to step out of the meeting, so but she gives her regrets. And beside you, CEO Bob Beck, recording secretary Miss Leah Blair, communications coordinator Jordan Schickelberg, and behind you is planning and development community services Krista Wilkinson.
Well, thank you very much for allowing us to come and do this delegation. I'm Colleen Powell, the current chair of the Alice B. Donahue Library and Archives.
And I'm Ariel Johnson, and I'm the library manager.
All right, I'll have a couple of words to begin with, and then Ariel has a PowerPoint we'll go through. And if you know this information, just stare at the ceiling or something for a bit. But the rest of you may need to know this. The library is a Town of Athabasca Public Library, and under the Act, under the Act is known as the Athabasca Public Library. I think you may know that. The name Alice B. Donahue came a long time ago when the lady passed away and council, not reading the Act, I didn't say that out loud, renamed everything the Alice B. Donahue. So we are a board that does two organizations, the Athabasca Public Library, which is governed, as you know, under the Library and the Library Regulations Act, and the Town of Athabasca Archives, which is not governed by any provincial act, but follows the rules of the Archival Society of Alberta. So the town cannot interfere in library business, but it does set the town share of its budget, which I've handed it out to you. So at some point you can have a look at that. Thus, if council disagrees, say, for example, with an increase in salaries, they cannot tell the library that, no, you can only raise the salaries by X%, but what they can do is decrease the budget by that amount. So they control the money that comes in, and we receive money from the Town of Athabasca. That's our major amount of money. That's $91,000 a year roughly. From the county, under the agreement for 10 years, I believe that there's another 5 years to go, around $65,000, and then $16,000 roughly from the provincial government. There's other sources of revenue in there that you can look at later on. At any rate, I'll leave that for you to examine right now, and we'll get on with the slideshow. And if you have any questions, please feel free to interrupt.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Oh, there's our title, click. All right, this is our staff. Or our board, I should say. We currently have 8 members, but we have a full complement of 10 coming along. We have 3 applicants for 2 positions right now, and we'll be making a decision this week. These people come from both the town and the county. Next. We have 6 staff members. 3 are permanent, and that means more than 25 hours a week so they can access town benefits. Ariel's up to 32 hours a week, for which she works about 44. And we try to stop her. What's new and notable right now, I'll stop. Some of these are more important. We've got a new clerk to replace a lady who decided to go down to part-time, and that's Lori Claire Hout. Cheryl Frazier had been our program coordinator, and she has left for FCSS, so we've hired a new young woman. We've got a new website, and although it doesn't seem like a big deal, we now can get coffee in the library. And tea. Okay. Volunteers. Now, last year we had 55 volunteers, again, from the area, not just the town. The year before we had over 80, and that was Taste of Athabasca. So depending on the programs we're offering, we get a lot of help from volunteers, and we could not operate properly without them. Next. All right, what do we do? Well, obviously, we loan physical and electronic resources. We loan books, we loan CDs, and so on. People come in, I think mostly from the county for printing and scanning if they're in an area that has wobbly Wi-Fi. There's all kinds of programs we'll talk about in a bit. And also you can access the public computer and Wi-Fi. We're on the SuperNet. I don't know if that means anything anymore, but at one point, the town office was actually thinking of seeing if they could move over there to make access to that because it was so expensive to do the internet services at that time. So more than just books. E-resources. I think that's increasing. I use the library through e-resources because, well, we don't have as many, but we used to have library shelves everywhere in my house, and the library books got lost. And when I took one 15 years out of date back, I thought maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. So I do it on my Kobo and my Kindle. And on your Kobo, you can borrow library books, not on the Kindle, unfortunately. You can get DVDs, and there's still a lot of people borrowing old-fashioned DVDs and Blu-rays, video games, music CDs. We also have board games. It's called the Library of Things, and that's becoming more and more popular. Now, Ariel and her crew did a public survey, and on things that they wanted to see, the Library of Things had one of the most requested things.
It was
Yeah. Yeah, like
46.2%.
46%. It just, on the graph, this huge line, everybody else is like that. And of course, books, magazines, and newspapers. Now, like you and your libraries, we're members of NLLS, so we have our own stock of books, but we also get the book van coming in twice a week from Elk Point. And I know why it's in Elk Point and it shouldn't be there, but it's somewhere near Saskatchewan. All right, who uses the library? I'm sorry, did I?
Not who, but
Okay,
how much?
so we've got three things here. The circulation, you'll notice the card holders are the smallest thing there, but a card holder may be taking out a book a week. So that sees why we've got 35,000 items circulated last year. 14,000 visitors to the library and 1,202 registered card holders. Now, to get a card, you got to come in, you got to show an ID so we know who you are. You can't just go in. It costs you $5. Councillor Hall.
Just on the card holder question, does that include the family card then?
So that does include a family card, which means some of those card holders could like actually count for 4, 5, 6 people, depending on the family size.
Okay, so this has a likelihood to understate. It's fine.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, the next one shows the library card holders. And again, some of these are family memberships, so these numbers are probably under the actual usage. And guess what? Who's using the library more than the town? You guys.
A smidge.
We get 67, well, just by a little bit. We have 67 people from the summer villages. Now, what is interesting to councillors is they do not contribute. I don't know whether it's worth asking them or not, but it is a town library. And I'm just trying to remember in the past, when I was first elected, and that was 1998, the county did not contribute to the library, but at some point that started happening. And I can't honestly remember when. It may have been with the multiplex. I don't know. But then the deal with your last council is, excuse me, you'll contribute for 10 years. We'll be back. Okay, the next one, patron demographics. One of the myths is that the only people who use the library have hair my color before Albert put that stuff in it. That's not true. It is still the largest demographic at 28%. The next one is the 0 to 17. Now, a lot of those are mothers with children, obviously. And the only one that is of concern really is the 18 to 34. Part of that, I think, is a change in generational use. And not as many young people are reading as they used to, but there are other things in the library. Also, I think, and I don't know this, I think moving the school to the multiplex meant there weren't kids walking down the hill into the library. Now it's destination. All right, programs. We do a lot of programs. And we've been doing more over the last couple of years than we've done in the past. So 20 programs last year. Remember, we're dealing with 3 full-time staff. So, and not really full-time if you counting how full-time is anywhere else. But we had 1,884 people attend our programs last year. So quite a few people. The big one was One Book, One Community, and they are sort of a group of people under the library that work with the library. And they've been going, what, 4 years? And we won the Minister's Award for Service Excellence last year. And it was us, I think it was Airdrie, and then a big city. So they do these awards every year, and some reason this one won. So they really did take notice, and it gave not just our library, but the whole area a boost in recognition. And boy, do we need that everywhere. One of them is the summer reading program. So 454 kids attended that. There was 23 sessions. I don't know if they all attended all of them, but probably a good number of them. We're doing a few new things. L'heure de conte, she says with the bad accent. French story time for those who are in French immersion. Get Lit book club again for younger people. And Dungeons and Dragons once a month on Thursdays. Saturdays, okay, fine. I'd say for young people, except my 44-year-old son was the dungeon master one week, so not so sure about that. And the problem in the library is they have to do it at the back behind the books because the building is so old and a little bit too small and not really constructed. It's 2 one-room 1952 schools with mice. At any rate, Taste of Athabasca, whoops, did I skip a page? Oh, just Friends of the Library. All right, is it a year and a half to 2 years ago, we approached some people to form a Friends of the Library to do fundraising. Because we are defined under the Act as a municipal corporation, as are all public libraries, and for anything, I have no idea what that means. We're not a corporation in any other sense of the word. I think it simply means that we act independent of council directives. That's the best I can come up with. But at any rate, we restarted Taste of Athabasca a year ago. And this year, we worked with the Lions Club to do Taste of Athabasca. And I think all of you being around here a long time, you remember the old one. And it was a lot of fun. Well, it's back because of us. So help make a difference at your local library. Join the Friends, and they are now able to go and do casinos, but we're hoping that they will get into serious fundraising because we need $5 to $7 million. I don't know what it costs to build a new library now. And I know it's not going to happen overnight, and we're looking at raising the money because the town certainly doesn't have that kind of money. And you guys aren't part of that, although, you know, a little bit would help. Other than that, you know, you can take part in fundraising activities when we get that going. Right now, we're still raising the awareness of the library. I think it's better than it was a year ago, and it was better than it was a year before that, but we still have a ways to go. And archives. Our archivist works 2 half-days a week. She is so bad, they asked her to be on the board of the Archival Association of Alberta. And she'd spent a year doing that and decided she didn't want to do that. She'd rather take her dog for a walk. But Margaret Anderson is wonderful. And this is where the history of our entire area is kept. It is meant to be effectively a giant filing system where you have documents going back to the dawn of time. However, people keep bringing stuff in. So there's a few artifacts in there. It's not a museum per se, but when we get to the point where we can build a new library and archives, the suggestion would be 1 room for Margaret and her files and 1 room to put that stuff in. If you've ever looked at a real museum, they don't attract a lot of people. They come once. So unless you got a gopher museum. And somehow that's not the road I want to go down. Well, they bring people in, I guess, but I'm thinking, oh God. At any rate, so we have 22,500 photographs, 500 plus artifacts, maps, audiovisual records, a lot of reference books, and a newspaper collection going back to 1909. And these all have to be very carefully kept in special fireproof filing things. We just spent a whole whack of money buying the plastic that the photographs go in so they don't deteriorate. If any of you have old photograph albums, you know, you put it in, you put the plastic over it, and 20 years later, you try to pull it off, and half the photograph comes off with it. You don't do that in the archives. So you have to buy the real thing, and they're expensive. But you guys contribute $1,000 a year, and I think we're at 10,000. It's on here somewhere. 9. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's on the budget line on that document I gave you. So they are an important part. And you know, time and money, we would probably increase the hours. She has 2 volunteers working with her now. Linda Doroshenko, I think many of you know her, has she should actually be a staff member. She's there all the time. And there's a new lady whose name I don't know. So there's some archival statistics here. She's got 11 visitors signed the guest book. I don't know. Visitors came and went from as far away as British Columbia. I'm just thinking of her last report to the library board meeting, and it was 2 pages of people who'd come in to find out something about their family, maybe something about what happened at some point, maybe a picture of a grade 3 class from 1946, that sort of thing. People do that all the time. Most of you know I live in an old house downtown. It used to be the Lassard House. My daughter went to the library and got all the information on the history of our house. So that kind of thing is done. Plan of service. Plan of service is library speak for strategic plan. Some reason when I got on the board, it was this. It's a strategic plan. So we're into the 2nd year or 3rd year. 3rd year. It's supposed to be done every 5 years, but the next one will be in a year or so, and it will involve public involvement on what they want to see, what they want to do. The last one, these were the 3 main things we were focusing on. And when we report to the government, these things have to be addressed. So all this stuff gets funneled to the government. We have to send our finances in once a year to the government, and our policy book. We have to send, they have to have a copy of our policy book. And that's all, folks, unless you want to look at the money. I did have something else that I wrote down at the end. We're in that 1952 one-room schoolhouse. It's too small. It's a problem for staff with heating and cold. They took the trees down outside the south side of the library. Not yet. They're taking them down. They're dead. And Ariel has asked that the outside be painted white because it gets so hot in there. And without those trees, that kind of a problem. You come into the where the reception area is, and you go into the area where you get your books or whatever you're buying. It does not meet occupational health and safety requirements, and they're going to be moving around, but it's not going to be easy. If you've got somebody working alone and they need to get out of Dodge quickly, it's hard. Also, it's not handicapped accessible. I guess we could put some ramps up. It's hard to get out in case of a fire. We need a new building, but that will come at some point. So we're doing that by raising money and by raising awareness. And I am open for questions if you have any.
Well, thank you very much for the great presentation and the fun presentation. That's exactly what we need. Looks like there's some great work. I do agree that it'd be nice to have a new building, but
Well, in time.
yeah, you betcha. And that before I hand the mic over to Councillor Shamsek, that I'm pretty sure she'll want to discuss. Okay, go ahead. Councillor Capitania.
Just out of, thank you very much for your excellent presentation. Nice PowerPoint. I guess I want to ask for the public as well as myself, who is in charge of the Friends of the Library group, and how would one get in touch with them?
Currently, Mark Neves is the president of the Friends of the Library Group. If you go to our website, there is also a link. I think it's under About Us. It says Friends of the Library, and you can send an email and they'll get back to you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Are you done? Just a couple questions. One of them being, when we talk about usages of the library, or county patrons, are you suspecting more growth in that number to come?
We've been, since I've been on the board, but I just finished my first 3-year term, the number of patrons has increased every year. And part of that, of course, is COVID, because it flattened during COVID. So it's going up every year, not by mega amounts, but a handful of people every year. And every month when we get the stats, there seems to be 1 or 2 more people. And I'm not sure where they all come from. I would assume that the majority of county users are from the western side of the county, unless Councillor Cromwell wants to drive all the way to Athabasca to get a book or a DVD.
Well, I find it funny, like, well, speaking from people I know from the east as well, they come in, use different facilities or whatever appointments or whatever the kids are in, that actually do come and use the town library as well. And I guess as memory serves me, maybe you can correct me, Ariel, because of the building and with the weight and stuff of the books, and we're unable to do any different configurations
Oh, yeah,
of
that's right,
libraries
yeah.
and stuff because of the floor joists and stuff.
It's actually written down by me. Yeah, you can only put your books a certain way, otherwise they'll go right down to the basement. And that, I mean, I've also been asked, can you put the library in the brick school? No, it's too small. The brick school is an Alberta historic resource, so you can't move the walls. I mean, theoretically, if you could take the interior walls out, yeah, but no, you cannot do that. It has to remain the 4 classrooms. They don't want you to be a school, but they want to have the historical elements remain. So, I mean, if they want to take blackboards out, fine, but maybe leave 1, that kind of approach. I've worked with the Heritage Society in the past. So Gary Chen, who's the man that we use, is excellent and is fairly flexible. They want these buildings used as modern buildings, but remaining, and you're not going to take that staircase out You want to remain the wood, windows have to be replaced, but let's replace them with similar windows. And there's actually a company, if you can't, we know this from the train station, if your windows are so bad, there's a guy in Tawatna that builds the real ones. So, we can't go in there. Actually, the town council actually looked at, for a brief moment in time of going in there. It's too small for us too.
As memory serves me, and I mean, it was before our time on this council, which is part of our agreements and stuff of, in the past of the brick school and so on and so forth. And you know, it's always hard with the, historical elements of when you gain that status of, historical, what the heck is it called? Does it have a historical, enlistment, the old brick school?
Yeah, just the old brick school,
Yes.
not the rest, not the theater, not the library.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you for that clarification, and we always appreciate your advocacy within Northern Lights and everything else, so thank
Yeah,
you.
well, I didn't talk about them, but you guys are all, I think, aware of Northern Lights. Right, Councillor Hall?
Your comments on weight, I think we need to, remember libraries have weight, and one only needs to look to the example of the University of Saskatchewan Library to see what happens when you don't plan your building for the weight of the books that are inside it, because they have a new library because the old one was sinking. On the new building, as you were speaking, one of the ideas that came to me that I wanted to share with you was are there creative options like using existing structures and modifying them? Sometimes it's cheaper to buy used than build new. And then the other two notes I made is listening to your comments. I wanted to compliment the programming for children in the community. In my opinion, it's a real advantage for the community. It brings the community together and it connects parents with each other. And, there's more than one grouping of parents who have met each other through the programming that's offered by the library and are in contact and friends today. You also mentioned to us briefly about the budget amount, and you provided the budget there. I had occasion recently to look at a press release from May of 2010. And in that press release, I think you would maybe be happy to know that the county provided funding of a flat rate of 194,680, which was basically a lump sum upfront payment in lieu of annual increases.
When was that?
That's what the press release from May 10th of 2020 reads. So we agreed to a flat rate and a lump sum, which may be something.
You have to read the agreement.
Yep.
It says a flat rate of 10 years and then the funding will end. There was a change in the actual wording of that agreement. It still allows us to come and say, have a second thought. So we'll reach that one. Probably I won't be sitting here, somebody else will be, but I'm sure conversations will be held. We've also, and I'm sure you have too, looked at the concept of a regional library system. The problem with that is that you, by the act, have to hire a certified librarian. So you're looking at 80 to 100K a year to hire one of those. Is it worth it right now? I don't think it is. Maybe in the future, I mean, it might help the entire region, but right now, it doesn't seem to make a lot of financial sense. Because you would still have the library managers in the smaller libraries, and then this person perched on top. And if you say, well, we can't afford somebody with any experience, and you hire somebody out of university to manage what, 4, 5, 6 libraries, I would not want to be a 22-year-old in that position. So I would take that off the table right now. Maybe in a number of years, it might be worth it. Also, we have to come out of whatever recession this community is in right now. We don't call it that, but our populations are down in all 3 communities. There's some issues around that has to be dealt with before we can even look at anything more.
Is that an advocacy that you would require from the councils to speak to, the appropriate minister about here's a stumbling block that gets in the way of good governance and functioning that,
Well-
maybe works for Red Deer and Calgary, but not so much for us?
We did get a $9,000 increase from the provincial government last year. Yeah, it surprised us too. Had to redo our whole budget. That took time. But yeah, no, and they kept it. So there was an increase. So I don't think they would be interested right now in further increases. But keeping the advocacy up is always good. Counselor Jamzik. Nope. Counselor Wallach.
At 11 o'clock.
Okay, then
And
I
so a
better
couple
shut
more
up.
Questions.
We just did that and I think it's about 4,000 square feet, but I'm not absolutely sure.
Your building is currently 6,000.
Pardon?
You're currently 6,000.
6,000, okay. Spatial stuff is not my thing. I could not tell you what the size of this room is, no clue. So roughly 6,000 square feet. And it's divided between the archives and the library. I'm not sure the size is that wrong. I don't know that. But if you're building something new, you want to build for the future, so you want to allow for an increase. But the building is just not organized in a way that really helps. So the library takes one half. And they've got a good little children's area, but it's, you know, it's not much bigger than the inside of what's there. So any other questions?
Councillor Anderson.
Thank you.
Councillor Anderson.
I want to compliment your library board for being part of the Northern Lights Library System. Prior to my time on council, I didn't realize just how many of the library services are available digitally
Absolutely.
and what an incredible portion that is, and how that's available to service so many members of our community, even without them having to enter the physical building. And I really commend you on highlighting that as well. That's incredible to know. And I don't think it's something that nearly enough of our community members understand how the library can serve them without them even having to enter the building.
Oh,
Really incredible.
I was on the library board in 1999 when NLLS came in. And it fundamentally changed what we were able to offer. And the kind of help that our library staff get from the kind of, we have to pay for it, but again, not that much, computing help, all kinds of help. Actually, I got a call at that time from a lady in one of the summer villages who was annoyed that her library card had gone from $5 to $50. And I said, because you have to ask your community to join NLLS, and then you will have the $5 card plus all the advantages. And her response was, well, I'm the only one who reads. However, they're all joined now.
Well, and further to that, being that the library can service so many more of our community members, do you have a recommendation as to how we can encourage the summer villages to contribute to the library board from a financial standpoint, and how we can get them more involved?
Well, it would have to come through the town council, since it is by the act, the Library Act, a corporation under the town of Athabasca. So it could be through various meetings with your, the town would have to involve the town. The board can say, please give us money, but they can't become part of our budget or part of the whole process unless it goes through the town. So, yeah, it's worth a try. But I mean, if I were them, not sure. But they are members, as far as I know, they are all members of NLLS.
Okay, well, no, good. Okay, well, thank you very much for your presentation and
You're quite welcome.
all the great work, and
It's a pleasure to be here again. I'm see you got new seats. When I was here last, they had those big green ones. They had to jack them up to the top and give me a stool for my feet. Have so
thank you.
anyway, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Okay, bye. We'll take a 4-minute break, real quick break. Okay, good morning. We will reconvene the meeting. We have another delegation that is presenting to us this morning. Eastern Alberta Regional Victim Services, Miss Melody Little. I will, what I'll do is I'll let council introduce ourselves and then introduce everybody else, and then we'll give you guys the floor. Okay, so we'll start with Councillor Anderson.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in Division 3, which is the Boyle-Caslin area.
Good morning, Brian Hall. Thank you for being here. I reside in Division 4, which is southwest Athabasca. Sorry, got my directions wrong.
Good morning, welcome. I know a couple familiar faces here, but I'm Grassland, Prospita, Atmore areas. Welcome, Kelly.
Good morning, Camille Wallach, Division 9, north of the river.
Good morning, Rob Menz, Division 8, Baptist Lake, Island Lake area. We have, oh, okay, we'll keep on going there.
Perfect timing. Natasha Kapitanek, Division 2, Collington, New Pine Creek, and Minot. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Joe Gerlach, Rochester, Fairville area in the south.
And we have Councillor Cromwell. He's away from his seat right now. Reeve Holland gives her regrets that she can't make it today. Communications coordinator Jordan Schickelberg. Executive secretary for county Leah Blair. CAO Bob Beck, he's away from his chair right now. Behind you is Director of Community and Protective Services, Krista Wilkinson. And on that note, I will hand you the floor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Melody Littell, the Director of Operations for Eastern Alberta Victim Services. I have with me the Assistant Director of Operations.
Yeah, I am Cheyenne Hrenick. I am Assistant Director of Operations, actually from this wonderful county. I was born and raised in Atmore, so happy to be back. And then we also brought some of our on-the-ground navigators with us.
Hi, my name is Cassidy LaRock.
And I am Chloe Brown.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we operate in Eastern Alberta District is the traditional and ancestral territory of many Indigenous peoples. This includes the Cree, Dene, Nakota Sioux, and Métis people who have lived on and cared for this land for generations. We recognize the deep historical significance and cultural connections that these nations have to this land. We are committed to fostering relationships built on respect, understanding, and reconciliation as we continue to serve all communities within the region. We honor the resilience and strength of the Indigenous people and their ongoing contributions to the community. As part of our work with victim services, in partnership with the RCMP, we strive to support all individuals, recognizing the importance of equity, healing, and justice for all. The mission and values of Eastern Alberta Regional Victim Services are based on the belief that victims are best served during the aftermath and during their journey through the criminal justice system, with supports by providing emotional supports and information. We believe that everyone should be treated with respect and dignity in a non-judgmental way, whether that is providing supports at the moment of crisis or through the justice system. By treating people with dignity, respect, and meeting them where they are at in their individual journey, we hope to help our clients feel heard and supported with the best information possible, so our clients are able to make the best decisions for themselves. As you can see, we cover a great deal of territory. We go as far as Wood Buffalo, Fort McMurray detachment area, down to Consort Carnation, over to the Saskatchewan border and the communities that surround the city. We do not provide services to Wood Buffalo, Fort McMurray, or Lloydminster. The North Subregion, ADO is Cheyenne Hrenick, who covers the 10 detachments listed in the north. And the South Subregion ADO is Doris Pindrock, and she covers 14 detachments. They are listed there. And Athabasca County is under North.
There's a lovely map on the back of your guys' brochures that shows all of Eastern Alberta District. So you can see just how large that area is, with the exception of the 2 blocks right at the top, which is for McMurray and North.
We practice a no wrong door approach. This means that our navigators will work with anyone to make sure they get to an agency that provides the correct supports. This may be that we give the agency's information, or if the client wishes, with permission from the client, we will facilitate a warm handoff to make sure they get to the correct agencies for the support they require. RVSS services fall into 2 categories: the general support services. This covers supporting clients that we've received referrals for from either the RCMP or other agencies, or the ones that come forward through the no wrong door approach. This is giving that emotional support, the handoff to an agency that might be a counselor, it might be an individual agency, support through the women's shelter, those types of things. The criminal justice navigation supports include giving clients court updates, doing court preparation with them. So facilitating a Crown meeting, talking to them about what time to meet and where to meet when they're going to court, what to bring with them if they need to bring something with them to court. Attending court with them to provide emotional support. Part of this support also encompasses providing the established government programs of victim impact statement and restitution recovery. So a victim impact statement is the victims say about what happened to them on a guilty finding. Restitution is for the things that have been destroyed, broken, or lost, that they can ask be replaced or the money be refunded, but that is up to a judge. Our navigators also work under the Victims of Crime Bill of Rights to make sure that our victims have their rights covered. So the right to information, the right to participate, the right to restitution, and the right to protection. Units still provide supports to victims of crime against people where charges could have been laid. We also provide supports to victims of multi-vehicle accidents or fires while they're being investigated. If charges are laid, we will continue to support them through the criminal justice system. If no charges are laid, then we hand them off to other agencies like counselors and the Red Cross, for example. We continue to provide supports for sudden death notifications. The unit, out of scope things for the unit are items like civil matters, divorce, parenting orders. We can tell clients where to access the forms and to consult a lawyer, but we don't fill in forms. We are not lawyers. We are not counselors. We don't provide supports for things like natural disasters like the Fort McMurray fire, because your response teams have those things embedded in them. And it's important to remember always that we are not counselors. At this time, we do not have a trauma dog program through Victim Services. However, we are more than happy to collaborate with external agencies that provide that support. We do not transport, but we are committed to working with Alberta Works and other community agencies that provide that type of support. We do not offer community debriefings. This is outside of the area of our expertise. We're happy to refer either those individuals or those agencies to agencies that provide that service. And we no longer do educational programming in schools. We'll gladly refer clients to other organizations. So the domestic violence outreach workers, the people that can provide those supports, and that is their job. We provide 24-hour after hour crisis response. It is through a phone number that the RCMP all have the phone number, so they can phone us. This will look different based on if people are on the roster for your area. So if you have volunteers, and we will always answer the call. there's always somebody available to answer that call from the RCMP and work with the officer to provide the necessary information to the client if there isn't someone to come out. We do provide call out services if there's someone available in the area to come out for suspicious deaths, which might be a homicide or a driving fatality, doing a sudden death or a sudden death notification with the RCMP, domestic violence, home invasion, and sexual assault while those people are in a safe place. We will not send our navigators or our advocates out to an unsafe situation. We no longer, or we do not attend child abuse or child sexual abuse. Those have to be investigated by a special team. Robberies, organized crime, missing persons, or expected deaths. So if someone is home on hospice and everyone is aware they are going to pass, we do not go out and support that. Our call out system has 2 tiers. Tier 1 is the person that answers the phone. When the officers call, they determine if the call meets eligibility criteria, and they'll work with the officers. If there is someone to dispatch for tier 2, they will dispatch that person, give them all the appropriate information and dispatch them. If there's not, they will help them, the officer, get supports. Maybe it's helping that person get a taxi or a hotel room. Our navigators will work with Alberta Supports to get that in place for our officer. Tier 2 are the people who are volunteers or who have volunteered to go on call outs, and we have staff that volunteer to do tier 2, and they will go out to the call where the officer is and provide the support if the situation's safe. And that is us. Yeah, there's a lot of information. Yeah, sorry, we pack it in there and try and get it in as much as we can in 15 minutes.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and that is a huge area that
It is a very large area.
yeah, like it's massive. So how big is your team? Like
We have 40 navigators, 37.8 navigators,
7.8, nice.
which is more staff than before the regionalization. So we are actively working to make sure there's bodies attending every detachment. So we have somebody in every detachment to provide supports.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Some are part-time, some are full-time.
Thank you.
I guess that was my one question is we've heard lots at our conventions when we go, some divisions are getting service less than others. I'm not sure, like with the regionalization. So have you guys had any other like positive effects, negative effects after that all came through?
I'll let you go.
I think positively, we have been able to recruit and hire for just about every area we have, so that we have bodies in place. And there was some areas maybe like that did not have victim services. So we are working diligently to make sure we get staff in those areas, but supports are still being provided. So currently our person isn't cleared for Wabasca. Wabasca is being supported. So in our area in EAD, everybody is being supported. It just might not, if we don't have a navigator in that space, they are being supported by someone else.
And that's only because every single navigator that is on the ground has to be RCMP security cleared. And that process is excruciating, as these two had to wait for that lovely email. So it depends on the area. So when we had the redesign, we had, I think it was 20 navigators roll over, and we had to hire for the rest of them. So we have 12 navigators currently in the security clearance process with the RCMP. And then we have, I think, about 2 vacancies we discussed this morning that we are we're posting right away. So for instance, Athabasca, for the Athabasca RCMP area, there is 3 navigators. So we have one, there's these 2, and then we have one going through the clearance process. Because you guys do branch out a little bit farther for like the Boyle area, Grassland, Atmore, it is 1 FTE allocated for that area. She's currently going through clearance as well. And then I don't know what other detachment areas you guys would bridge into with the county.
Wabasca. Wabasca, like the MD of Opportunity. We have one currently clearing and we're recruiting for another actively.
Yeah.
That's really fantastic to hear. You know, we all appreciate the amount of work that you guys do. It's all the very important work as well. Is there a high volume about applicants that are regularly coming in?
Shockingly, yes.
That's great.
So Melody and I rolled over with the previous victim services and we covered Athabasca before for a few years. And it was very hard to get applicants. There was not very many applicants coming through. So I was worried coming into it. And then I went into the interview phase and I spent like 3 months in interviews. We had tons of applicants. There is amazing resources and some very, very good candidates that are coming out of all of the communities. So it's fantastic to see. I hate turning people away. I'm hopeful that they'll join as an advocate or a volunteer if they're not the successful candidate. But we have been very lucky. I think the only one that we will struggle with for this area is Wabasca, just because of the location and the security clearance process and housing up there and things like that. So our one candidate is actually relocating to Wabasca. So she wants to buy a house. She wants to do all of that. But the other FTE may be difficult to fill. It's actively posted, but we haven't had any other applicants. So that is about the one that I recognize in the north that we may struggle filling.
May I just have one more question?
Yeah.
Last year, you also attended the RCMP open house down in Grassland.
Yes.
I'm hoping, of course, if the RCMP is doing that again, would you guys be willing to speak or planning to speak?
Absolutely, yes. If the RCMP, like they typically give us the updates of the town halls, and they invite us out to be able to speak at them. So it just depends on the rotation, but absolutely, yes. Dennis had reached out for that one, so we were happy to attend. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much.
One thing I want to say about that, about trying to advocate for people, if you have a person moving in to a location and starting the process, the way I've been looking at or getting shown things is that people will actually get attracted to it once they see that it's actually working and it's helping in that. So good on you that you got somebody moving into the location there.
I will say my biggest success in the hiring process was getting a relocation from Quebec all the way to one of our northern locations. So I love seeing people wanting to relocate to our community. So I'm all in favor of that. Absolutely.
Oh, perfect. Well, thank you. Any other questions? Anybody else? No? Okay.
We are currently recruiting advocates. And we're always recruiting and actively recruiting advocates. So I do have, for your information, I do have a couple advocate applications. And if you know of anybody who might be interested, please pass it on. We'd be so happy to have them.
Absolutely. And the only other item as well is that we are still seeking board members. So we have heavy representation from the St. Paul area, the Slave Lake area. There is now a board member for. We're just missing that piece for the Grassland, Boyle, Athabasca, for that voice for this area. So if anybody knows of anybody that would be a very strong voice, please pass along. It is on our website, is on the brochure, and the application process is on there for that. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And if there's no other questions, thank you for coming today and giving us a better understanding of how this works.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
You betcha.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll take a few minute break here. Welcome back, everybody. We will, after the two presentations, delegations, we will move on to bylaws. 7.1 bylaw, road closure. So there's a recommendation. Anybody want to move the recommendation? Counselor Wallach has moved the recommended recommendation to direct administration to forward road closure bylaw 003/2025 to the Minister of Transportation for approval. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? Carried. 7-0. So that one's done. No, what page we're going to now? 82. So bylaw 005/2025. Inoperative, obsolete, expired, spent, and ineffective bylaws. Recommended motion. Anybody willing to move it? Well, you put your hand up. Councillor Chamsick has recommended the motion that bylaw 005/2025 be given a third and final reading. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Okay. 5-2. Okay. So motion carried. Third and final reading of that is done. So we can go into new business. Page 166 of your agenda. Oh, go ahead.
Although I felt that this was sufficiently clear to be included on the consent agenda and would be interested as to why it's here for discussion. I would move the recommended motion, and in speaking to it, say council has already approved the creation of a capital requisition for the Greater North Foundation. And this is more of a housekeeping item where the requirement is to set a maximum aggregate limit of funds that can get into that fund. There is no realistic possibility that the fund would ever accumulate to even a $3 million amount, because the foundation has done a study and has a multi-year capital spending plan. And this is about gathering enough to do those things. And as funds are deposited into the bucket, they will be withdrawn to put into place the maintenance that has been in the capital plan. So that's really why it's in front of us. It's just that housekeeping item. And as anybody who's been awake at the table in the last 3 years will recognize, it's a priority for me that we set up the organizations we're part of for success by looking at the long-term sustainability and saving for big ticket items, and saving a small amount every year instead of waiting for the emergency, the gigantic panic when things happen. And so there is a maintenance plan in place, and there's some other documents there for you. I think the impact, so this council, I'm thankful it's not one of them, but there are some times misunderstandings related to council's role as it relates to the foundation. The foundation is an independent body, almost like a school division. They requisition directly through the county, but against taxes. So this has no impact on tax rates from the county. It does have a minor impact on the taxes collected. And I can't remember, but I think it's the stat or the example is a $300,000 house would see about a $7 increase, $7.44 increase per year in their taxes as a result of doing this. And so that really demonstrates the power of when the region works together, we can accomplish big things, because that's less money than I spent on coffee and breakfast today.
Okay. Any other discussion? I didn't catch the beginning. Are you moving the recommended motion? Okay. I was still looking for it. So sorry for that. Yeah, I think it was thrown in front of us just for having this discussion and that. Some people might have thought that we were gonna have to pay, every municipality was gonna have to pay 262,000, but that's not what it is. So as long as everybody understands that. Yeah, no, I think it's a good plan of moving forward. So I guess on the recommended motion to approve the annual capital requisition for Greater North Foundation for the capital maintenance reserves based on 1 in 20 of the most recent 20-year maintenance plan with an aggregate limit not to exceed 3 million. How do we all vote? All in favor? Councillor Gerlach? Are you in favor? Opposed? 6-1. Motion carried. Okay, so now we move on to 8.3. Athabasca Gun Club request 171. So recommended motion. Who wants to move the?
But I would like to not tie the hands of future council, so I would like to make that motion for this year only. To make motion to authorize the county to go and plow the snow if there's any left at the gun club this year, and request politely that the gun club resubmit their request, though I support it, to the next council after election.
Okay,
So that's a two-parter, I guess.
so you want to make it, do we need to make an amendment or?
Motion, with removing. I wrote it differently. I said I would like to authorize a donation of a snow plowing for the year 2025 to the Athabasca Gun Club. And respectfully request that they resubmit their request next fall to the new council, this fall.
Okay.
To the new council.
Okay. So with that understanding of the motion.
Would your motion then read really to authorize a donation of snow plowing services to the gun club located at whatever that address? For
This year, like right now. Yep. And then. But be kind and say, please ask again.
For 2025. And request, yeah, okay. Okay. Everybody understand? Okay, Councillor Hall?
I'm going to disagree and propose an amendment that we add the words for the next 5 years, only because we make decisions that affect future councils all the time. We've agreed already through policy to do community halls. I wanted to say community halls and churches, but community halls, churches, cemeteries already. And I feel like this is kind of like a community hall, and they're really only asking for 1 plow per year. They're not asking for continuous plowing. So I don't think it's a big deal to say, here you go. Because councils have important things to do, and we don't need to bog the next guys down with sort of routine. This is a pretty inexpensive, cheap and routine decision. So I would propose the amendment to give them what they've asked.
So Councillor Hall is proposing an amendment to change from 1 year to 5 years. And to go back to the recommended, to just go back to the recommended motion and.
Just to keep it real. Okay, you know what? I will, with unanimous consent, retract my amendment. My intention was to give the new council a win and allow them to have a good news story as well. But it is a good news for the whole community either way. So I will I'm sorry to have wasted your time. I will just take it back and say, let's do a good thing. And the next council can also be like, yay, we're also doing a good thing.
We got unanimous consent to, okay.
So that would really just mean you've moved the recommended motion. You got that, Leah?
Okay, so we're going back to the recommended motion and I think everybody's read it and Councillor Chams.
I just want to say I appreciate the good conversation and debate at the table.
Okay, perfect. So seeing no more discussion, hopefully the recommend motion to authorize the donation of annual snow plowing service to the Athabasca Gun Club located at on 8/27 at the rate set out by policy 3201 for the next 5 years. Oh, Councillor
Is
Wall.
that at the rate or by donation? Are we charging them?
By donation, one.
No, donation, but I guess, do we need to put a rate in there? Administration, do we need to put a rate in there or just, okay, so,
Okay, never mind. That's fine.
yeah. Okay, so on the proposed motion, all in favor?
Yeah.
None opposed, motion carried 7-0. Thank you. Okay, you want to go to the next one? AGL cannabis, 6.4, 176. Councillor Hall has moved the recommended
Well,
motion.
no, I would like to move that council indicate municipal support for the temporary cannabis license for the Whiskey Flats Music Festival as outlined in the attached information, subject to the applicant receiving support and approval from the Boyle Ag Society, which is the landlord of the site. So to add the words, subject to the applicant receiving support and approval from the Boyle Ag Society.
To receiving support from Boyle Ag Society. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. So the council indicate support for the temporary cannabis license for the Whiskey Flats Music Festival as outlined in the attached information with support, adding on support.
Subject to the applicant receiving
Subject
support,
to, yeah,
support and approval from the Boyle Ag Society.
yeah, subject to support.
Because the Boyle Ag Society is the landlord and they have the care and control of the event space. And I think it's important that they provide their blessing on anything like this.
Okay. That's all, everybody, any other discussion on this? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? So that is 6-1, motion carried. Thank you. So page 84. Alice B. Donahue Library. So there's a motion on the floor to receive. Well, no, not yet, but somebody want to make it?
I
Councillor
would be
Chalmers.
glad to receive this report for information.
Okay. Discussion?
And just for, you know, the benefit of my colleagues, the reason I added that is I just think it's respectful of the delegation for us to make sure we've created time in case they bring something to us that warrants discussion, that we don't just automatically tie our hands where we can't discuss it. And I'm really appreciative of the information that they provided, the work they do. Yeah.
Yeah, the report was very good and lots of information and not so.
I just want to make one comment. The comment made about the provincial funding, that was the first time that we've seen an increase in 7 years, just for that information.
Right on. It's good news. Good news story. So on the motion to receive the delegation for information, all in favor? Motion carried. 7-0. Eastern Alberta Regional Victim Services Delegation. Motion on the floor. Counselor Wallach.
To receive for information. I just do want to make a comment though, like, from what we hear at RMA, it sounds like the new regional system isn't working for everybody, but it's working here, so that's really positive to hear.
Yeah, it's truly positive, and then, and it is a huge area. I can't believe how big that area is under one jurisdiction, eh? So we can go to RMA and say, hey, she's working here. So, perfect. Any other discussion? Seeing none? All in favor? Motion carried 7-1, and that one, do we wanna, is lunch here? Okay, let's break for lunch until 20 after 12. Okay, so I guess we're gonna reconvene the meeting. And here we go. We'll move on to 9.1A. She'll be back. 9.1A Community Events Calendar.
Sorry, I was wondering if I could make a motion for reconsideration of the motion that we used to approve the minutes without discussion, because I had noted an error, I think, what I think is a mistake, but I wanted to correct. But I just, I incorrectly recorded. I thought you had said that was a discussion item, so.
Oh, okay. So Councillor Hall wants to make a motion to reconsider approving of the minutes. He would like to have a discussion on them. So, yeah. So, motion to reconsider. All in favor? Carried. We got it here. 6-0.
Sorry, I apologize for not paying more attention.
That's 4.1,
It's 4.1.
page 5.
So the question that came up for me that I think warranted a discussion from council was, I felt like on page 9 of the agenda or 5 of the minutes, I felt like resolution 25-72 should just be struck from the minutes on the basis that it doesn't meet the procedural bylaw. You know, we've heard that we, you know, are bound and have to follow our bylaws, and when I looked at that, I feel like we had made amendments to a policy and passed a policy, and then following that, another motion was made to continue making amendments to the policy, when really what we should have done is kicked it back to a committee to carry on with additional amendments before passing the policy. But given the policy has been decided, it seems to me that doesn't qualify as something that can come back. We've made a decision, and the decision is that we've amended the policy and it's now done. Specifically because there's no motion for reconsideration around that item.
So, Mr. Chairman, can
But
I weigh in?
Yeah,
Whether or not,
so maybe I'm wrong, and that's why.
no, whether or not, where you're going with this is correct or not, the minutes are a true reflection of the discussion that day.
Yes.
So we probably can't change the minutes, because it happened. Whether or not it was appropriate is a completely separate matter that then you can raise today or at a subsequent meeting. But the minutes accurately reflect what we did that day.
Oh, okay.
That's my point.
Sure.
Even if
well,
we
that's the
were,
advice
even
that
if we
for
were
me.
wrong,
Even if, yeah, okay.
correct? Understand? Sorry.
I appreciate that. So I don't know. I think it warranted a discussion with council. And given that advice, I don't know what the right direction is.
Well, I guess we could move to reconsider it later if you want, right?
Correct. I think if you want to reconsider that motion, that's fine, but the motion was made.
Right.
And if it's an invalid motion though, then what do we do?
I'm sorry?
If a motion is something that on its own violates the procedural bylaw, what do
I
we
think
do?
that might be grounds to reintroduce the item, if you know what I mean. So
Okay.
those are your entire grounds for supporting reconsideration.
Okay.
We were wrong. I'd really like council to reconsider that motion.
Okay.
On these grounds. I hope I'm right.
That makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay, so,
That would come in form of an RFD or.
or just a request, right?
Well, since the minutes themselves are on the agenda today, I think that's a matter of discretion for council. Are you allowed to discuss subsequent motions coming out of the minutes? Business arising. If council want to add an item, I'm not too sure. But I understand what you're trying to do.
Well, what you're actually saying is this is a competing motion, like
It just was not competing, but illegitimate because we had made a decision and the matter was closed. and then we didn't reopen it, like process wise, we were talking about amendments to the procedure. And we agreed on, you know, a few, and then we should have said, I also think we need to fix these things and kicked it back to committee for a greater discussion or dealt with it at that point. Instead, we closed the matter by approving the amendments that were in front of us, and then it's, you know, we closed the door on it and moved on and then added something back.
Okay, so,
And because, you know, words of a colleague were ringing in my ear that you know, we're insisting that we need to stick close to the bylaws. I guess I just would like to have the clarity of when do we listen to the bylaws and when don't we? So maybe it's something as suggested by the CAO that we just pop it on the agenda as an item to discuss. We accept it as an item for business arising or something like that.
on the
Today.
March 11th meeting,
Or today, because it's here.
well,
Because we're dealing with the minutes today.
go ahead.
I mean, we are missing 2 council members, which of course we cannot all be at every council meeting. It would be nice to have a full conversation, in my opinion.
Yeah,
There's no impediment to them being at the meeting. So that said, then maybe the other question that arises out of the minutes that isn't worth a change, but so to put a motion on the floor, then I would recommend we approve the minutes as sorry, I'm not willing to make that motion. Someone else can do it, but on page 11 of your agenda, I just point out to you that we rescinded a motion that we defeated. And I'm not really sure how the logic of that flows, but it's 25-85 was to rescind 25-6 and 25-6 was a defeated motion. So what it means to rescind a motion, I don't know. But anyway, I think probably you need someone to just approve the minutes as presented. Move on.
okay. Yeah, because that one motion is going back to the committee of the whole for a discussion. And the other one, we'd have to pull out the minutes from and try to figure out, was it a defeated motion? Was it?
Mr. Chairman, we have the March 11th meeting before next committee of the whole. So if council want to have that on the agenda for discussion, there's certainly time. So, and the next committee of the whole is the 25th. So we've got time for council to talk about that on March 11th, a rescinding of that reconsideration or rescinding. We'll look at the procedural bylaw, but which one is appropriate? There's time.
And then you'd bring that information back. Or do we need to?
Or a member of council could do an RFD or
Okay,
either way, it'll get on the agenda.
okay, sounds good. I think Councillor Gerlach. Councillor Gerlach has made a motion to approve the minutes. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Oh, Councillor Cromwell came on board. When did you come on board, Councillor Cromwell?
Uh,
Oh, that was
before,
the thing?
yeah,
Oh, good Lord. Okay, so are you going aye for
approval.
approval? So that would be now 6 approved, 2 opposed, motion carried. Whew. I don't even know where that, okay. Now, let's go to 9.1A, community events calendars.
I just have a few small things. May 3rd, there's been a change of what has been a pretty long-standing tradition in Atmore. The Heart Fund ride will not be having a ride this year. It will be a dance and dinner. Also on the May 26th would be the Grassland Egg Society general meeting.
What
And
date was that?
the 26th
Of March?
for the Egg Society, correct?
Yeah.
Park Fund would be May 3rd. And same for April, Egg Society meeting would be on the 28th.
I just got one on there. It's the March 20th to the 23rd is the provincial being held hockey team in 15 provincial hockey games being held at the multiplex. So come watch a game if you so desire. 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. Yeah. The U15 B team will be playing one game each day of 20th, 21st, and 22nd. So that's my. Go ahead.
I'll add, there are a few of us attending the EDA conference in April on the 9th to 11th.
That's the council calendar.
Oh,
Not the community events.
no, we did community events already.
No,
Okay,
that
never mind.
was-
I thought we were doing them at the same time then. Never mind.
Okay, so
The 9th. Oh, I see.
so we got to make a motion to amend that
Sorry,
as
guys.
presented? No? Or we just? Oh, Joe?
Yes. First Thursday of March, April, and May. are all summer with the seniors.
First Thursday. Joe.
You need your mic there, Joe.
First Thursday of each month, which would be the 6th of March. 3rd of April. And the 1st of May are all supper with the seniors in beautiful downtown Rochester. The food is excellent, and the company is even better.
May I add to that? Having attended, I learned quickly go when it starts or be in line even early, because they only make so much and it's amazing. And we were like 20 minutes after it started. And we pretty much ate all the food that was left. Give her, it's great fundraiser. Hope that food is so good.
Okay. What is the next? Next thing is
No community events.
9.1C, Minister of Forestry and Parks. Page 195.
Mr. Chair, I put that on the agenda, or asked for that to be part of the discussion, specifically to ask if administration had any advice or recommendations for council regarding the minister's requests.
Mr. Chairman, I think we brought a free item to council earlier, not that long ago, and we'll go back through an agenda and find it, but we received free grants this year. So we've got, maybe I'll get our fire chief to come in and explain the projects that we're approved for. So we've got some fire breaks approved, some projects. So let's just get Chief Shalapai to come in and explain. So he took advantage of it to the extent that we have the manpower to apply for and to carry out. And so we've got some projects.
That's all because of the timing, I wanted to ask, and I noticed there's no date on this letter, which is a bit weird too.
He's got a very good relationship with the FRIA group. So everything that he thinks he can get done, he applies for.
Right on. Well, thank you. Okay, so moving on to 9.2, meeting calendars, March and April.
That's okay.
Councillor Anderson?
Going back to the letter?
Oh,
Or are
okay.
we talking about council?
Yeah, we can. Sure. Don't want to put you on this spot there, Chief Shalapai, but take her away.
Well, Councillor Minns, not putting me on the spot at all. Actually, this is something we're quite excited to talk about. So FRIA grant application wise, we've actually had a second application since I first reported. So in FRIA, there's 7 disciplines of Fire Smart out there. One is public education, we have vegetation management, emergency planning, training, interagency cooperation, legislation, and development. So the first round of applications, we took advantage of the vegetation management, the emergency planning, and the training elements. So we did receive a substantial amount of money to do a whole bunch of Fire Smart work in the Caslin hamlet. So we're looking at 5 hectares of fuel modification, which is for the most part a fire guard. It's not completely eliminating all the forest. It is varying levels of treatment. So we're going to be removing all forest within 30 meters of the Caslin Fire Hall, as well as the AFRAX communication tower. So we're creating a buffer there, which will also protect the community hall. Then for the area we are able to on the land, we're pushing out almost half a mile to the west, where we're going to be removing 50% of all the spruce, which will open up the forest quite a bit, reducing the intensity of a fire should it come in. It's similar to the activity we did in Caslin back in 2020 over on the other side of the highway. So it's not a complete fire break, but it's meant to lower the intensity of fire to a manageable level. So we do have that money coming forward. The emergency planning piece was for us to work with our fire services throughout the county and identify water supply locations. So we're fortunate to have the ag water stations scattered through the county. They do have limitations. They're 10,000 gallon tanks. They have slow refill rates, and we share them with the farmers. So depending on the time of year that we need water, we may or may not have the full 10,000 gallons. So for us, we need to look at our ability to draft and get water from static and flowing water sources. So we do have creek, streams, ponds. For us, each fire department has kind of a handful that they are aware of, but there are many, many more. So we're actually looking at bringing in some additional support. We had funding to bring in basically additional a seasonal staff member to help us go through and identify, map, plot them on the GIS system for us, so we can actually have a really good idea of where all the water sources are, which will in the future allow us to identify areas of the county where we don't have water supply. And if there's assets at risk in that area, then it allows us to help think forward in terms of where do we need to look at future water stations or dugouts or. So that'll be a very exciting activity this year. And then the other one is training. We did get funding to provide fire services additional wildfire training. So those are the 3 that we were granted. We did put in a 4th application for some curbside fuel roundup and chipping. That was declined, but we were very fortunate to receive the 3 we did. We actually just submitted a 4th another application, so another round of FRIA grants open for us. We applied to do an update to our wildfire mitigation plan. So we actually have a plan that kind of outlines how we do our vegetation management and our different activities. Some concepts of Fire Smart have changed. Back when the plan was written, it was very focused on residential. So looking at subdivisions, communities, it missed critical infrastructure. So again, AFRAX towers, electrical substations, gas reducing stations, things that if, we do have a major event, we don't want to lose power for weeks on end. So these are things we do have to consider in our plan. So we have we've applied for funding for that. Administering the grants, they typically, so their stance is before they will approve another grant in the same discipline, they want to see that the first activity is substantially completed. So for us to apply for the full fire break program, we'd have to complete our Caslin fuel modification. And right now, this winter is actually, it's been great for us in terms of moisture, but in terms of Fire Smart planning for the fuel mitigation, we've had to wait. Our registered professional forester that's going to do the block layout. With the amount of snow we have in the forest, he can't actually do the full assessment. So we're kind of handcuffed by the weather right now to actually start the Caslin project, but that is one that we want to get on here as soon as we can in the spring, as soon as he can get in there and do the block layout. So we are very active on the FRIA stuff, as CO Beck indicated, as much as our staff capacity can handle at this time.
So one question I have is when regarding the trees that are being removed there, what do we do with the trees?
So the ones that we're going to be modifying in Caslin, they're not merchantable timber, so it's going to be mostly mulched. And then the mulch layer that we leave behind actually inhibits the growth of fine fuels, so it actually keeps the forest floor a little more open, so we don't have a lot of regrowth and a lot of grass fire hazard in there as well. So the spruce hazards, the spruce will be mulched. Historically, we've tried for merchantable timber. It's a difficult topic to get funding for because then you have revenue coming back and you have to factor that in. And those FRIA projects typically aren't overly successful. The other kicker with the FRIA grant funding is where we actually can do the work. So just for council's knowledge, when it comes to the fire smarting, we can do it on public land, so county-owned land, crown land, even grazing leases if we go through with public lands and have all that fun. But the grant app can't, like that money can't, the vegetation management can't be applied to private land. So if it's titled land, we can't actually go in there. That's where the public education comes in, where we have to work with our landowners to do the trimming, pruning, maybe sell some timber. That's the public education side where we can really leverage that. But sometimes we are handcuffed in where we can do work. So I know our neighbors to the southeast, Buffalo Lake Métis Settlement did get funding for the fire guarding program. So they're actually going to be building a fire guard on the west side of their community. So actually we'll have a buffer between us and Buffalo Lake. But again, that's all crown land. For us, there's a lot of titled land around our target areas, I should say. Like the rural subdivisions, like subdivisions, a lot of it's titled. So it's tough to get a true fire guard going in those areas.
So I guess the other question is, do we have to get, or do you guys have to get temporary diversion licenses for if water is required, like out of a stream, out of a?
So for us on the emergency side of things, there's no licensing required for us to use water for fire suppression purposes. That being said, if we do identify water supplies that are on private land, I'll make a hypothetical. Let's say Councillor Gerlach has a beautiful dugout we want to use. We should be looking at entering into agreement if it's going to be part of our plan as a planned water source.
Yeah.
But in terms of emergencies, we don't require any diversion licenses.
Yeah, because I was just wondering about that. I heard a little bit about it at the conference I was just at. Plus I know for dust control we do, right? So, but I figured for emergencies we didn't have to, but right on. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Anderson, go ahead.
Thank you. You mentioned that informing and educating the public is really essential for fire smarting on private lands. Are we looking at a communications plan on an education piece that can be shared to help spread that information?
Through the chair to Councillor Anderson, absolutely. So twofold. So Fire Smart Alberta provides us with a whole bunch of pre-printed materials. So all the pamphlets and different documents that we can handle come through to us. Every community event we go to, this is a staple of our presentations. We're taking the Fire Smart material to every opportunity, whether it be the FCSS luncheon, we took it to the Grassland Ag Society Egg Fair. We had a community fair down in Rochester. We really promote the stuff when we're out in the community. And on the other side of the coin, we are currently in the fire services as a whole looking at a communication strategy for fire services. I think in previous conversations, we've identified that there are different things, whether it be permitting, fire smart, cost recovery, things that we need to, or even insurance that we need to communicate better. So we've already had meetings with our communications team on how we can be more robust and consistent with our fire services social media page as well.
Through the community programs, through Fire Smart, but community members can step up and do some of those fire smarting programs and advocation as well, right?
Through the chair to Councillor Chamzik, absolutely. So Fire Smart Canada does have a lot of different programs, and I mean, we can spend a lot of time talking about Fire Smart. There's a community champion program, so where folks can actually go in and become community champions. They get a little bit of education. It's a half-day session. Fire Smart Alberta provides that on a regular basis, and as we get this information coming in, we can make sure that it's communicated out. As well, we can actually look at, it is in the talks of us trying to host this, no promises, but we're trying to see if we can host a community session here too, to bring the public in to have a better understanding and hopefully find a few more community champions. Some insurance companies, so Fire Smart Canada as a whole has a credentialing program where if you can get your whole community fire smarted to a certain level, you can actually get designation as a Fire Smart community, and some insurance companies do have rebates and discounts on that as well. still kind of in its incipient stage, but there are some places like Whitecourt that have been able to get funding back in communities that have all banded together and done the Fire Smart activities.
Thank you.
Just because, you know, over the last 15 years, I've noticed that the notice we send with our taxes has invariably not varied. Oh, that guy just lost his hat. I wanted to float the potential reminder that we mail tax notices out in a couple of months, and there's a really good opportunity to include information in that envelope that I think we have routinely missed. So if we want to communicate directly with ratepayers, there's a chance.
Any other questions for Chief Chalupay? Thank you very much for the great information and the great getting these grants going. It's it'll be awesome for the communities, especially for Caslin. It's very much needed. So thank you very much. You betcha. Good job. Okay, so now where we're at, going into 9.2 calendars still, or did we?
No, sorry. Want me to go?
Sure.
Just for Miss Blair, I'd be very quick, but the March 10th meeting for FCSS was canceled and moved to the 31st. It will also be the ROTC, I think that's the acronym
Yep.
for it, that I believe Reeve Holland, Deputy Reeve Mins, myself, and Mr. Hall would be attending. The real operation time, it was an email sent out from Staff Sergeant Mark Hall for an opportunity for council members. Yes, I believe it's that day, yes.
20, what day? 31?
And then other than that, in April, County Library on the 7th, Boyle Library on the 15th, and ALT on the 17th, and the Alice B. Donahue. ALT on the 17th and the Alice B. Donahue. Yes, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Anybody else got anything? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks. The March Committee of the Whole, I'm sorry. The March multiplex meeting has been canceled.
Has been canceled?
Yes. The April meeting has been moved to April 22nd at 9:30 a.m. and the May meeting has been moved to May 27th at 9:30 a.m. We're just trying to avoid some conflicting dates with the Healthcare Retention Committee and Greater North. So we had to move some dates around, but I think everything else will be status quo.
You betcha.
This is, we just gotta put the EDA conference that is, April 9th to 11th on the calendar. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. EDA. Where's that at? Let me see, Mike.
So, there is.
Say hi to Mike for me. So, I got one, I'm pretty sure there's a water commission meeting on April 1st, right? I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Does it? Well, I guess I gotta flip over. Okay, yep, perfect.
When you look at the right month,
Wrong month. Okay, no. I'm good, okay, so. Move to approve. Motion to approve the calendars. And for all of item line 9. Okay.
Should there not be a healthcare retention meeting on the 24th of March?
I don't have any of my notes here with me. They're all at the office there right now. So unfortunately, I can't add into the calendar.
Okay, well, we'll check that out. We can let Ms. Blair know when that meeting is to add it on. So. Okay. Motion to approve the calendars and by Counselor Townsend, or do you want to talk? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried, 8-0. Perfect. So now we move off of there and we move into item number 10. We were requesting a letter. To see the letter, do we have a copy of the letter? Sure, if we could, please.
No, we're just looking at the trees. Oh, I was like.
Yes, they said that it was really gonna pop up. Eh?
Miss Blair, can I get a copy of that electronically?
Okay, it'll be
Thank you,
emailed to you.
Jordan.
Okay, I guess this item was added onto the agenda by Councillor Hall, so we I guess we can start with that discussion.
I think, so we received this and we know that there is an intermunicipal committee meeting coming up and it's, you know, potentially, this is certainly has potential to be one of the discussion topics. And in order to prepare, you know, have council, the members of council who will be there, have an idea of the mind of council generally, I thought a brief discussion of this would be worthwhile. I think what we're seeing through some of the exchanges, you know, in terms of the letter and some of the newspaper reporting that has come out of our neighbors' council meetings. It's important, and this reiterates the need for us to work with them to establish clear lease agreements and clear operating agreements. You know, I think in general, there's a lot of information that doesn't hit the public. You know, there are essentially three separate corporate bodies that are involved here. There's the two municipalities, which are the landlord of the building, and the landlord then has an operator that operates the building. They're all three separate, and you know, we have to be careful about the landlords figuring out how they want to interact with each other and not putting pressure on the operator. And so getting a good lease in place, an agreement between the landlords on cost sharing as it relates to the capital items, like any good commercial lease, the certain capital items really are the responsibility of the landlord. And also having a clear plan for the benefit of the operator so they know what the landlord is going to be fixing and what's going to be their responsibility. And it happens that the operator is that third party is also has as its constituent members the two municipalities, but they are three separate bodies that are corporately different. And this brings up, you know, the fact that there are different views of what's happened in the past, and we've got to figure out as a region how we take care of the assets that we have chosen to build. And you know, we've made decisions, and we have to be responsible for the choices we made, and figure out how we look after them in a way that's respectful of the ratepayers who are paying for this stuff. And so really my intent was just, we should have a bit of a discussion on where everybody else is, where their mind is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think sitting down and discussing it is the next action required. So we'll leave it at that.
I mean, if there's no other views at the table, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Thanks. We've talked about this item a lot at the arms board meetings and around that table. And the more I've sat down to think about the implications that the town's decision could have on us, I've really come to recognize that there's a significant amount of county taxpayer dollars that have been invested in this facility. And I think that as council, we have a responsibility to protect that investment. And for that reason, I think that we have to take actions to ensure that the asset is going to be managed and maintained at a reasonable level. And part of that is going to be having discussions here at the intermunicipal committee about how to ensure that the town can't just cut the funding for important maintenance, which will then cause negative impacts to our ratepayers' investment in that facility. Like I want to make sure that we always remember that our community members invested in the facility and they deserve to have their investment protected. So I don't think that the town should be able to just at random cut necessary maintenance and repairs that are required. So this one really bothers me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no,
It really does. I
think-
don't know if we need to have a closed session discussion about this item before it goes to the committee or what the will of the table is, but I do think that I'm glad it was added to discuss further.
Go ahead, Brian.
I'd move that under section 24 of the Freedom of Information Act, we enter a closed session. Advice from officials so that we can receive advice from our CIO.
Okay, motion on the floor to move into closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.